Hello there, world of tankers. Welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Blitz, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about some rather interesting information which has just been released to the public. In front of us, we are watching a replay of the BZT-70. This is a Tier 11 Chinese reward tank on the Lesta server for World of Tanks. Did you see that? Yes, you read that correctly. 1,733 damage from one penetrating shell into a Jagdtiger. That's because this vehicle in Lesta has APF SDS, which, with a penetrating shell that travels through the entire tank, can deal upwards of 1,700 to 1,800 damage. If that doesn't make sense, I'll explain. The way APF SDS is balanced on Lesta is the further the shell travels through the tank, the more damage it does. So let's say I'm shooting at a tank's turret, and it's a very, very small portion, right? It goes through this little flat bit here. That's only going to deal maybe 300-400 damage. But let's say I'm shooting through the hull of a tank, right? Now I'm shooting through the hull, and it goes in here, and then it goes all the way through. The more distance the shell travels through the tank, the more damage it does structurally. So you can see here, for example, we have an Object 705A. And because the turret has much less area than the hull, the shell only does 367 damage. So that is exactly how the BZT-70 has been balanced. Do I think that it's going to be balanced that way when it comes into Blitz? No. And interestingly enough, as of now, it's a Tier 10. But I think Wargaming is possibly messing around with the idea of adding higher tier vehicles. As we know, the reforged version of the game is bringing Tier 10 down to Tier 7. Does that possibly mean we are still going to have an 8, 9, and 10 that goes up to modern tanks? Maybe. And I think it would be pretty cool, but it has to be balanced properly. And it's possible Wargaming is testing the waters with the BZT-70. Well, I don't know what to say. I'm excited for this vehicle, but I'm also very nervous because this is an incredibly dangerous looking tank. Let's actually take a look at the statistics of this vehicle really quickly. Starting off, how about the armor? This is what the armor looks like against AP standard, okay? So we have the upper plate, which is about 313, and then this part of the upper plate, you're not penning with anything due to the angle that it is. The turret is about 325 on flat ground, and if you're using the 8 degrees of gun depression, that turret goes up to about 360. And if you're loading high explosive, which has heat levels of pen, it will have 406 millimeters of effective turret armor. So basically, you're not penning this thing's turret with any shells. I should also mention, it does have big weak spots. The hatch is only about 250 millimeters thick, and the other hatch is only about 260. While this vehicle is a Tier 11, it doesn't really have any stronger armor than Tier 10s. Honestly, the Chieftain FE201 has a much better turret, and the Object 279E has a much better turret and hull than the BZT-70. Really, this tank is kind of like a T-95 with a turret. That's really like, look at it. It looks exactly like a T-95 with a turret, doesn't it? It's really goofy. But, yeah, armor-wise, it looks strong, but definitely nothing overpowered in the armor department, right? We can clearly see if you over-angle the vehicle, the sides just become super weak. So even if you want to make that lower plate strong, like this, that side armor becomes super weak. So armor-wise, it actually doesn't look that overpowered. It's really the gun that is insane. So the vehicle has a base damage of 1,050 per shot, but as I said, the way the APF SDS works is that it increases in damage the more distance the shell travels through the tank, and it decreases in damage the less. So it has 300 to 1,700 damage. So if you shoot at a mouse, for example, and you hit the lower plate and it travels through the whole length of the vehicle, it can deal upwards of 1,800 damage. But if you shoot at the side of a T100LT, it's only going to travel through this much of a tank, and it's only going to deal maybe 300 damage. So that's a great example of how the APF SDS works. Now, the AP just has a flat 1,050 damage per shot. So you can fire AP at a light tank and just deal a huge amount of damage. But obviously on PC, you can't immediately swap shells. With Intuition, it might take a couple seconds to reload that shell. So there's a lot of things to keep in mind. I don't think Wargaming is going to follow that path in Blitz, but if they do, it'll be very interesting. When it comes to the vehicle itself, we can assume in Blitz it's going to have an incredibly high alpha gun, maybe 800 alpha damage if this vehicle is going to feature a... What even is the caliber of this gun? I don't even know what the caliber is. It must say it's somewhere here, but I'm going to guess it's a 106. Oh, it's a 180 millimeter. Yeah. So if this thing's got a 180 millimeter cannon, That's 3 less than the 183. In Blitz, if they keep that 180 millimeter, it's gonna deal an insane amount of damage. It also has a boatload of health, 2800, and on PC, if you're running something like Improved Hardening, which is in the equipment slot, if you're running something like the most special Improved Hardening, you can have 3150 health, which is crazy. It's very slow, though. Only goes 33 and it reverses at 12. And honestly, we can expect the tank to be that slow in Blitz as well, because I can't imagine they'd make it any faster. It's possible. We'll finally get rocket boosting, though. A lot of people have speculated in Reforged that certain tanks are going to be getting rocket boosting, like the BZ-75. So it'll be interesting to see if we get rocket boosting in Blitz, and this might be the first tank. All I can say is that it's apparently going to be entering the game soon. And we can see that here, right? If we scroll down a little bit, we can see it has been confirmed the BZT-70 will be coming into the game, should enter the game soon. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Like, I don't know what to say, right? This is going to be really, really interesting information that I'm excited for the tank, but the question is, where is Wargaming going to stop, right? Because the BZT-70 is one of a few completely overpowered tanks on Lesta, right? Because we have this tank, but if you actually look at the full list of vehicles on Lesta, there's quite a few tier 11s. We have the Object 452K. We have this tank, which I know a lot of you are very familiar with, the 279. Look at this thing's armor. Like, what the heck? Loading, by the way, this also has APF SDS, but like, what is this armor, bruh? At weakest, it's like 340, and again, against, like, HE, which would be heat, it has 380 to 90 millimeters at weakest. Look at this thing! What is this? That is insane! Oh my. It only has 5 degrees of gun depression, but still, that is crazy. Don't worry, though, it has a lowered plate, guys. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. I'm just... If Wargaming does a fine job balancing them, I have no problem. But the question is, will they do a fine job of balancing them? This is interesting. It's just an IS-4. I don't know why the IS-4 is a tier 11. But there's a lot of takes, right? We got the BZ-T-70, the MBT-B, T-57 Heavy, Object 279. We got the 452, which actually doesn't have much armor. It usually seems like the guns are really the major strength of the tier 11s rather than the armor. Well, apart from the 279. But as I said, there are also tier 10s which exist, which have really good armor as well. But I don't know. If any of you haven't seen this vehicle, the Gendarm, I don't know how to pronounce it. This tank has 4,200 base DPM, and it has a 16 shell clip. Yes, it does 6,400 damage in a clip. It does 800 damage in 0.5 seconds because it goes boom, boom, and then it has a 3-second intro clip. So think of a Helsing, but it has 16 shells. Oh my god. Yeah, there's a lot of tanks on Lesta which are insane, right? I don't agree with the balance decisions that Lesta does, but we're going to see what happens. That's all I can say. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video, and let me know what you guys think in the comments. Oof, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.